main event is a whole nother story, and oh my gosh, it is a mind-blowing one as it ever. I mean, Darby Allin, over 100 pounds lighter than the Machine FTW champion Brian Cage. And did he ever put on a performance like I've never seen before out of a true big man? I mean, the strength, the power. I mean, he just, I don't know anyone on the roster who could manhandle another person that the way he did. I mean, he caught him, Darby was going to run through the ropes. He caught him in midair, then lifts him up. Then he throws him over his head through a table about 10, 15 feet through the table and accurately does it. And then he picks him up and suplexes him safely. And then he picks him up and then walks him up the steps and then throws his ass in the ring. Like, oh my gosh. Like the pure power and strength by Brian Cage.
That's the one
something we have not seen before. And this is just insane.
You mentioned, I mean, I love hearing you kind of go on the tangent of how exciting and insane this whole thing was. I feel like not only was it a great showcase of Cage's strength, but it was such a great showcase of his creativity in the ring.
For sure.
Good point. It's one thing to be a hoss and German suplex, or we've seen power. We've seen a lot of big men. And wrestling has always been a body. Right. Wrestling's always been a body business, right? So you see we've seen lots of big men in wrestling before. But Cage's creativity and his ability to showcase his power in such a wide variety of cool, wild ways. As a fan, I was just like, it's hard to put it into words. It's hard to put it into words. It really was one of those showings where, yes, Darby came out on top. But I'm sorry, man. Like, Brian Cage came off like I've never seen him before. I mean, this was a star performance by Cage. Obviously, I mean, he carried 98% of the match. I mean, just through his offense. It didn't feel slow. I know you're big on pacing of a match.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like it was too long. It didn't feel like it had big moments or stretches where, pausing or awkwardness. Anytime that Darby kicked out, Cage continued to push the pace. That power bomb sequence where he picked him up off the ground and did multiple power bombs. I am at a loss for words.
Clearly you don't know what to say. And I mean, so was I was like, just end it, just like what Taz said. But like, we unanimously agree our top performer of the night was Brian Cage for that reason. Just the pure power, the creativity that we've seen. Like I said before, I have not seen anything like it in the way of just pure manhandling. Yes, he's over 100 pounds lighter, but still, I mean, if I'm picking up someone that's 100 pounds lighter than me, it's still going to be a little challenging. I'm not a beast like Brian Cage, but just the stuff he did, I just kept going, wow. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Like, just end it. Where's Darby? Darby, I mean, yes, I've talked about Darby being the rag doll, the crash test dummy that he is. And, it really did showcase that again, even though he did come out on top. But the performance by Brian Cage tonight was, I think him losing does him no harm. He proved to everyone in the wrestling business how strong and how much a beast he is. And you can't hide that, man. That strength and that pure raw performance like that. You can't. Yeah. Wow.
In general on this show, SPD, I try really hard to not give my performer of the night to someone who lost. That's something that, like, one of my inner rules that I try to abide by. But dude, even on a night where Pac got his hands on Kingston and he opened the show in a way that I think no one was able to meet the bar up until this match. Dude, Cage was absolutely next level tonight. This is such a great pairing. I gotta say, I've said it before, this is the masochist versus the machine. You got Darby, who literally seems to almost enjoy pain. going against a monster of a man who enjoys dishing it out. This was truly a badass performance by Cage. This dude's creativity, utilizing his strength, his power, his athleticism. It was
Who better?
who
Who
better.
better than Brian Cage?
Honest to God, leaving this match, I know that Brian Cage has lost a lot of his title match. He's had several title match opportunities, and he's come out as the loser in those. That said, he did not look like a loser tonight.
Right.
I feel like Brian Cage's performance tonight was truly something. As a fan of Team Taz, I mean, if you are an AEW fan, I think all of us walk away saying we want to see Brian Cage get more opportunities in the ring like this. I mean, I want to see Cage get a strong run with a title. I don't know if it's the TNT title or not, but this dude is, when you look at him, and this is another thing. I know that we shouldn't be so shallow, but if you're a casual fan and you're scrolling through the channels and you see Brian Cage and you see what he did to Darby Allin tonight, you're not changing the channel. You're stopping on TNT and you're watching this destruction, this mayhem. Cage's violence that he showed tonight.
Oh my gosh.
This was like that car crash that you can't take your eyes off of. This was that. Like, we've seen Cage put Darby literally in a body bag before. This was an absolute beatdown, like nothing we've seen on AEW television, really. I mean, when was the last time you saw someone look this dominant in a singles match? AEW tries very hard to really build up everybody is in their own ways, even in losing efforts. Like we talked about earlier, Marco Stunt, even in a losing effort, he still had to look good. Dude, the only thing about Darby in this matchup that you got out of it was that he has heart that cannot be broken. Otherwise, man, it was all Cage the entire match.
Yeah, there wasn't, I mean, comes to mind. I mean, you had another beatdown where Brody beat Cody for the TNT title. That was another beatdown, but honestly, Cage, I think, manhandled Darby worse than Brody manhandled Cody. But, of course, we knew the inevitable was coming. I did a hot take. I was hoping we'd see the Singer Splash, but we did see a few baseball bat swings against Ricky Starks from Sting, which was a nice way to end the match. I mean, you knew it was coming, and it worked out perfect. It was the distraction, the help that Darby need, because Ricky Starks, in true heel Team Taz move, was going to start to interfere, and it was a finisher that it wasn't his normal coffin drop finisher. Speaking of coffin drops, the coffin drops onto the stairs, that was brutal. And then this finisher was a fun finisher to really take his momentum and to help use the size of Cage to his advantage to pin him. So it actually worked really well. It wasn't one of the cheap roll-ups, even the coffin drop. I hate the roll-ups, but even like the coffin drop, I love that finisher, but I don't think it would have been strong enough for a defeat against Cage. And so
especially
I think this was it was a very, very well booked finisher. But leaving this match, I'm not talking about Sting. I'm not talking about Darby. I'm still talking about Cage. His performance was just out of this world. And, he's our top performer of the night for sure. And, going from here, I'm not sure where we go from it, but
that's what I was going to ask. I mean, I know that when I've talked to Bonds and I read his column, I know that Bonds sees this all playing out where, Team Taz eventually they're all going to challenge Darby for the TNT Championship at some point. And we've talked about the inner circle having some, dissension amongst the ranks. This could be an opportunity where you introduce a little dissension if a Ricky Starks or a Will Hobbs can beat Darby. Then you start to see a little bit of maybe the ego. You potentially, right?
Right.
But I don't think that they're done with Darby. I certainly don't think
definitely not.
Yeah, and I think that the way the show ended, again, it was kind of like a flash pin from Darby. Darby was really manhandled throughout this match, so I think Taz is going to have plenty of ammo in his arsenal to come back and say, he got lucky. It was a fluke, that type of thing. This is not an example of him throwing in the towel for Cage. I think that
Right.
Cage earned another shot too, man. I don't know, man. This, like you said, I'm leaving tonight's Dynamite talking about Brian Cage. I mean, that's it. We have
Yeah.
so much star power on this show, no doubt. Brian Cage put on a performance of a lifetime tonight. I mean, that guy showed out.
Did he ever? And this was Bonds' biggest moment of the night was this match with
Not a
Darby Allin and
surprise.
Brian Cage. And we're gonna hear from him right now.
99% of that TNT title match, Darby Allin, you earned the biggest moment of the week with your win because the 1% of offense you got in was all it took to take down Brian Cage. And man, there was a lot going on in this match. Cage dominated the whole time. Our champion looked like he had no chance. And I can't believe he managed to pull it off. Guys, I want your thoughts on this because Cage looked dominant in defeat. And Darby has a lot of questions to answer, frankly, because he wasn't able to do anything on offense until there was distractions ringside. So I want your thoughts on this because this is a huge win for Darby and for his reputation. But man, he looked really, really small against a guy like Cage. And there's a lot more champions like that than like Darby Allin. So I want your thoughts on that match and that crazy moment to end the show.
So yeah, Bonds really piggybacked on all of us about the biggest moment. The Darby and Cage match was truly a jaw dropper moment.